In this video, we will take a detailed look at the recently released Kling AI version 1.6. We will compare the new model update with previous version 1.5. In the prompt battle, we will test Kling 1.6 against SORA, Runway Gen-3, Minimax and Hunyuan. And as we approach the end of this year, I will share my personal ranking of significant video models from 2024. Let's get started. Firstly, if you want to access new Kling version, you can click on AI videos and select version 1.6 from the model selection drop-down on top. This new model promises greatly improved prompt adherence for more consistent and dynamic results. In this first example, I'm focusing on prompt understanding, and I'm testing version 1.5 and version 1.6 to understand the improvement or if there is any difference. Just as a reminder, I'm using the official prompting structure recommended by the Kling prompting guide and the structure they also use in their examples as well. Also, another rule that I'm not re-rolling these prompts, I'm bringing the results from first ever try. So I wrote, woman is in the metro while camera is pulling back. For the first example, version 1.6 did a good job. It understood the camera movement in the first try, whereas version 1.5 struggled a little bit. It didn't really brought me the camera pullback. The camera motion was hit or miss with version 1.5. Most of the time it was a miss, but I'm positively impressed that in the first try, 1.6 managed to bring me the camera motion. The next example is about a ballerina dancing in an old castle. Here I wanted to observe how good the new model is in comparison to the previous one when it comes to motion and action. So again, I'm using same prompt for both models. And you will realize the ballerina in the version 1.6 is much more dynamic and active. The motion looks smoother and natural, and 1.5 output in comparison looks really static. Again, these are first try results, and I'm already positively impressed with version 1.6. In this next example, we are testing prompt understanding again, and I'm trying to understand the coherence and how closely and consistently camera can track the subject. Here you will observe a positive improvement again with version 1.6, where we have pretty coherent result where this robotic firefighter is carrying the dog. On the other hand, 1.5 got a little bit weird and they kind of entered to the burning house and dissolved there. I can say there is a clear improvement with the new model here. And in this last example, again, I'm focusing on action and motion. While prompting for Kling, we always start with describing the scene first. This is recommended by their guidelines. And in the second part of our prompt, we are describing either the event happening in this scene or the camera motion or cinematic motion that we want to see in the shot. So in this example, you will realize that both models struggled a little bit with the final swing of the katana. I would argue that version 1.5 struggled much worse, whereas you can see version 1.6 did okayish job until the end, and in the end it struggled very severely. But just trying these 4 quick prompts, you will realize that there's a significant improvement for 1.6, so kudos for Kling team. I think they did a good job here. Now let's jump into prompt battle, and we will start with text to video. In text to video, I'm comparing 5 models: Kling 1.6, SORA, Runway Gen-3, Minimax and Hunyuan. The first prompt is famous stylish woman walks down a Tokyo street. You can see the full prompt on the screen. I'm running same prompt for all these models. I will start by the worst one. From my perspective, SORA looks the worst. On the runway output, I see a little bit of coherence issues, particularly on right hand carrying the bag. Minimax output looks surprisingly colorful and saturated. In this particular output, that diminishes the realism for me a little bit. But if we focus on the walking, the motion, and the fluidity of action, it looks really good. I think 2 of the best jobs here done by Kling 1.6 and Hunyuan. Especially Kling's world looks really alive. Even in this short clip, you can see people are walking around. Unfortunately, I had a shot from back. But if we solely focus on walking, it looks really natural and correct. I think coherence is really high. And Hunyuan result, it just looks so realistic. Almost like recorded by a real professional camera. It's not as alive as the Kling output, but realism looks really a whole new level. So I'm really happy with the Hunyuan result and Kling result. I would argue that for this first test, it's a tie between Kling and Hunyuan. Next prompt is a difficult one that I wanted to a little bit challenge the models. We have an Ottoman siege of Istanbul. It's an historical prompt where we are looking at many things. A lot of stuff is happening in this prompt. It's a long one. We are looking at photorealism, prompt adherence, world understanding all together. In this particular example, I was impressed with the SORA output, that it looks cinematic and realistic. So thumbs up for SORA for this video. And of course, the close-ups were not part of the deal. I didn't mention any close-up in my prompt. So if we look holistically, the output didn't deliver what we asked for. But there are bits and pieces and small frames that looks really impressive. The runway output looks the worst from my perspective. This just looks like a modern-day Istanbul, and it has nothing to do with what I asked for. Very poor result. The Hunyuan output managed to render the realism. And of course, you have walls and you have soldiers. The flags and janissaries are not represented here. So world understanding-wise, what we asked for isn't here. But it's a realistic-looking video. At least I can give you that. Here I would argue that Minimax output and Kling output come closest to what we ask in our prompt. It's a historical scene. You have soldiers in front of the walls. At least they have the traditional red outfit of Janissaries. And Minimax output again looks really a little bit cartoonish. It's not as realistic as Hunyuan output, but at least there is some kind of world understanding. Looking at Hunyuan output with weird physics and just the soldiers and horses are moving abruptly right or left, I would argue that Kling and Minimax are winners of this challenge. Yet it's difficult to say one model outperformed the other one dramatically. Next prompt is hands shuffling cards, Turing test for AI video models. Simply all models are struggled with this prompt. It's a very good prompt to test these models. I haven't seen any AI video model who passes this test so easily except Google VEO 2. The Kling output looks really strange. The anatomy of hands looks good, but the cards look strange. They look more like a brochure, or I don't know. They don't really look like the playing cards. SORA output is just pure chaos. The runway output morphs and kind of like changes shape. It's just weird. Hunyuan output is ultra weird as well. Even though it's not perfect, I think the Minimax output comes closest to, we could say, acceptable quality here. The next challenge is my and yours favorite. Yes, it's a valuable prompt with a massive meme-making potential. You can generate so many memes for AI video models using this challenging prompt. So we have volleyball match between two professional teams. It's not beach volleyball this time. And struggle is real. Let's start with Kling output here. It managed to put some kind of net, at least between players. There are two balls and one of them morphs, and it has like strange physics. It's just not working. The SORA output, I think there is not much to add here. Yeah, again, the time moves weird, multiple balls. You have actually one net disappears, another net comes into the scene. Runway Gen-3 completely ignored volleyball part, or let's say merged basketball with volleyball field together and created a new sports. The Minimax output has at least some kind of world understanding. This player is unfortunately morphing so heavily, so it's really making this shot unusable. You can see it's really like morphing like crazy. I think for this challenge, Hunyuan comes closest to what we say is acceptable. Of course, you have some issues here again, kind of like a strange frame jump, and the jerseys doesn't make sense, right? And you have a mix of teams in the pitch, but I would argue Hunyuan comes closest to an acceptable result here. In this challenge, I aimed for something cinematic, a chain of actions where the subject follows a sequence step by step. So we have a detective walks into frame, shows his badge, and then camera zooms to the badge. For this particular prompt, Hunyuan and Runway Gen-3 struggled quite a lot. I'm not ultra happy with the results came from these models, so I would probably put them aside for this particular prompt. I think Kling 1.6 did a good job, except the badge looks a little bit weird and not really like a detective badge as we know it. I like so much that Kling 1.6 managed to follow prompt step by step. The whole sequence, the walking into frame, showing the badge is here. The SORA output looks ultra cinematic as well. You can see that the person walks into frame, shows the badge, and we have a zoom to the badge. And Minimax took an interesting approach here and got creative, and I think did also a fantastic job. For this particular prompt, I think Kling and SORA both did a great job. Then Kling 1.6 is a little ahead in terms of prompt following, but SORA output definitely didn't disappoint here. But if we say let's pick the best prompt following output, I would say definitely Kling. And with this, we are finishing the text to video comparison. And now we will jump to image to video. By the way, if this video is helpful for you so far, please give a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. For image to video, again, we are taking the first output without rerun. And for comparison now, I'm dropping Hunyuan because Hunyuan doesn't have image to video mode yet. For the first challenge, I have a train speeding up. I'm trying to understand how well model is able to understand what's in the image and create emotion out of it. I think all models did a good job here except SORA. Among all these models, SORA's output looks by far the worst. I like the most personally Kling output here because this is exactly what I imagined. The Runway and Minimax output is also good except you have a bit of a morphing for Minimax output there. And generally, historically, when it comes to action and motion, Runway just creates extremely slow video footage. It's just moving so slow. So it doesn't really give you that strong, the natural feeling of motion that I could only take here from Kling here. It just feels like SORA, or I'm guessing this model is actually SORA Turbo. It's not the full release. This really feels like an inferior model in comparison to other state-of-the-art models, especially in comparison to Kling 1.6. In this next example, we have a couple of different subjects. We have 2 dogs and 1 woman walking. And I would love to run this on SORA as well, but unfortunately, being able to use images with people in it is behind the paywall. So therefore, I couldn't run this with SORA. I will start with the worst one again, the Minimax here. So action, the walking, motion, it's very natural and it looks great, but we are seeing strong coherence problems with the face. So face looks really blurry and we are losing the coherence here. When it comes to best output, for me, it's Kling 1.6 without a doubt. The Runway output is great as well, but it's not as good as Kling output. And again, you have this slow motion thing. It just doesn't flow, you know? And in Runway output, for the dog on the right side, you will see an additional leg appears. So winner here is Kling. In next video, I'm starting with this image and I would like to test the camera orbiting around my subject. So again, I started with describing my scene a little bit. We have a woman watching the city from a high angle while a camera orbits around her. I think all models here delivered a great result, a usable result. I personally found the Kling output the best because I also like the wind in her hair. But looking at Runway output and Minimax output, I think they all did a great job here. Visually, I like the Kling output the most, but I will accept all 3 of them as winners here. This video is actually funny. And I will be honest with you, I tried 2 times with 2 different prompts here. Actually, I just wanted to have a simple cinematic focus change from man's face to the gun or vice versa, but I struggled with that with all models. I couldn't have that nice, cool cinematic focus change. So then instead of that, I decided to test simply camera pans right. And I hope that while camera is panning, the focus also changes. Strangely, Minimax gave me the shot. So rifle fires, I didn't ask for it. Runway Gen-3 Alpha gave me a really nice, smooth camera pan, but unfortunately it added an additional barrel, a wooden sniper, to the end of the rifle of my character. So that's really non-usable here. Again, I would argue that here Kling 1.6 did the best job. Even though it's not the best camera pan, I will still accept it relatively looking at the other results. However, the Minimax output, the rifle is firing and after that you have a nice focus change, focusing on character's face. It's very usable, it's a very cinematic shot. I think it would be fair to say that this challenge is a tie between Kling and Minimax. So in next video, we have a cinematic action scene. And here Minimax again started with firing rifle. That's something we didn't ask for in our prompt. And yes, we mentioned a shootout, but we didn't specify that the rifle needs to fire here. Gen-3 Alpha output looks weird. The legs, the movement, the motion looks really off from my perspective. So for my own AI film, I wouldn't use this output. Again here, Kling 1.6 gave the most cinematic best shot. Is a clear winner here in comparison to other models. In this next challenge, we have an event happening in the scene. We are starting our scene with an ancient city, and then we have a flood hitting the city. Unfortunately, Runway just didn't get the flood and it couldn't reflect what we asked for. And people's movement looks natural, but it's not what we asked for. Here we got a fantastic result from Minimax. As I mentioned a few times in my videos, Minimax excels with this kind of things. If you have an event happening in your scene when you start with image to video, Minimax generally always delivers a good result. Before, Kling was struggling with this, but now I see Kling started to catch up as well. So even though it's not a massive flood rendered here, still managed to give us what we asked for. I'm really in between Minimax and Kling output here, but I personally feel Minimax output did a better job here, so therefore I will choose Minimax over Kling. In this next video we have a Viking, and we would like to understand in which model camera follows the subject best. I think Minimax did a great job here. Only in the first frame you have a bit of a time freezing problem, and it almost feels like director said action and then actor started to walk. So that's funny. And this happens with Minimax sometimes. The initial shot kind of freezes for like 1 second and then it starts again. I like here that the runway output looks really cinematic, like the water physics look fantastic. But again, it's not what we wanted. And the Kling output here looks really good, but the camera doesn't follow the subject, it stays static, so it completely ignored what we asked for. So for this challenge, clear winner for me is Minimax. Probably you need to cut the first second of the video though. In this next challenge, I didn't write any prompt. I just decided to give the initial image, leave the prompt empty and see what happens and which model does the best job without prompting anything. Again, starting with Runway, I don't know why it's always slow motion. In this video, I'm definitely lacking a little bit of dynamism. I think here Minimax output would be great, but this weird red UFO appears in the end. That's kind of strange and that kills the shot for me. I'm afraid to keep repeating myself, but Kling did the best job here with dynamism of people walking, rendering the smoke. We have characters walking in different speeds. We have UFOs slowly hovering in the scene. It looks so alive and dynamic, and I would say Kling is the clear winner here. In the next challenge, I'm testing the human action, motion, anatomy, and physics. We have a simple prompt. She gets on the horse. I think it's a simple yet effective way to test models. Minimax output is not usable because a second horse appears from nowhere. Runway output is cute. There's a nice cinematic dolly out. And being fair, it managed to keep the coherence of the scene and character, but it's not what we wanted. Here again, Kling, like a soldier, really loyal to the prompt. Woman gets on the horse. Physics and kind of like how she's climbing is a little bit weird and a little bit strange, but Kling delivered what we asked for with relatively okayish looking physics. Next challenge is similar. Again, we would like to see that our monk gets on the dragon, or since there are no wings here, we could say kind of like a big lizard. It's again a sequence of chain of actions, so we want first to see him walking towards the white dragon or white lizard and then gets on it. The Minimax output is a little bit strange where he kind of floats. Runway output again looks very cinematic. The lizard doesn't move at all, so it looks very static. You know, it's a very nice coherent over the shoulder shot, but again, it's not what we asked for. And Kling, I'm kind of tired of repeating this, but did the best job here. Our character walks towards the lizard. Physics looks okay, it's not the best, but at least it climbs over. In the next challenge, again, we are testing the physics understanding of the models. So we have a woman gets in the car, starting with Minimax output, how the doors of the car opens in the same time, and she walks to the front of the car. It's just strange. Runway output is also ultra strange, where she looks like she's trying to run away from the car, where a car is driving over her. This is the Kling output. First try again. She opens the door, and in the middle of the shot, video stops because 10 seconds limit. So in comparison to the other two, it looks much better. I think still it was gonna struggle a little bit with the end of the action, that I'm not super sure she would be able to really fully get into the car, but I will accept it as a winner. Next video, I wanted to test motion and action again and physics. Minimax generally excels with this kind of videos. Of course, if you ignore that the coherence change of the face, probably this is something they need to fix, because model does an okayish job generally with physics and motion, but the coherence of face changes way too much. So they probably need to improve that. Runway output started well, but then character changes. She becomes smaller, bigger, and then a sunglass appears in between. So we completely lose coherence of the character here. Unfortunately, it's an unusable shot. Here again, Kling did the best job here, like waves and the character's motion with the surfboard, and the coherence, everything looks good. It would be, of course, nice to see what comes out from that wave. If model would still keep the coherence until the end, that would be a big surprise for me. But again, Kling did the best job here. I don't know, I kind of started to feel like I'm just repeating myself here. In the next challenge, we would like to understand if models understand the hand gestures, and I just want to try something simple like hand heart gesture. Now, most of the time AI video models are good with it. So Minimax nailed it. A perfect output here, exactly what we asked for. Runway, I don't know, a completely unnecessary dolly in here, that it's not something we asked for. Completely ignore my prompt. And Kling made a half heart here. So I'm like, where's the rest of that? So Minimax is the clear winner here for this challenge. In this next challenge, I'm starting with this close-up portrait, and I want drone camera to move up. Here, Minimax actually understood what I asked for, but then coherence completely failed. My character started to fly. Gen-3 Alpha switched to low angle. It's not what we asked for. Unfortunately, all three models failed for this prompt. In the next challenge, I have an event happening in the scene. I'm starting with the simple. My character is walking in the jungle, and I have a tiger jumping into the scene. So Minimax tiger looks really strange. This whole shot looks weird, and Gen-3 Alpha gave me a nice tracking shot. Completely ignored tiger. You know what? You don't need tiger. Here's a nice cinematic tracking shot for you. And Kling gave me the tiger in the end, in the very end. Well, we could accept that Kling delivered what I asked for, even though maybe it's not the best, most usable shot here. You will realize there's also a bit of a struggle with the scale here. Like, woman gets smaller and smaller, almost like she shrinks in the shot, and tiger is just way too huge. The next challenge is about understanding how models reflect the human emotion and render. I think both Minimax and Kling did a fantastic job, though Kling output looks much more dramatic, where Minimax output is a little bit more subtle. And yeah, as you realize, Runway just couldn't render it. So yes, she looks sad, but she's not crying. I'm between Kling and Minimax for this particular challenge, but to be fair with you, I think Kling won this one again. As you understand, we have a great model with Kling 1.6. It's definitely a massive improvement. I want to test this to VEO as well, and I know the upcoming comments that yes, VEO is not publicly available. I agree. So we have Kling already, right? It's publicly released. We can use it today, so it's already amazing. So just for fun, we can test it against Google's VEO too. So I want to start with famous tomato cutting scene. This is the Kling output. The beginning of the shot is unfortunately unusable. And yes, VEO shot looks really like next gen here. And if you cut maybe the beginning of Kling shot, it's usable, but still it's not as good as VEO, unfortunately. In this next prompt, we have a cat roars while looking at its reflection in the mirror. Instead sees itself as a lion roaring. I think this is a really nice challenging prompt because you need to render cat, lion, the whole reflection, roar, many things happening, and this is a good prompt for testing AI video models. I think Kling here got a really difficult time. It kind of morphed cat into a lion and made like a very big cat, whereas same prompt in VEO rendered extremely accurately. I would say Google's VEO 2 output is shockingly good for this difficult prompt. And lastly, giraffe gymnastics, another fantastic prompt. I mean, imagining giraffe gymnastics is even difficult for me as a human, yet for AI video models. And as you can see, both models struggled here. It's a difficult prompt, and I like it so much. I think both models honestly struggle with this. So it's good to see, that Google VEO 2 has a limit as well. But if you look at like coherence and generally photorealism of video, still VEO 2 I would say is superior. And many people in the comments asked for my personal choice of AI video models, so I hope this section will be a great consolidated reply for everyone. My personal ranking of video models as now looks like this. So if you are watching this video, I don't know, in March 2025, things can be quite different because this space is moving so fast. But this is a snapshot from December 2024. Of course, obviously, based on what we saw so far, the Google VEO 2 looks like the best model, but it's not available yet for public. Only selected people can try it, and therefore I grayed it out. I can happily change it once I have access to it, but for now I can't use it. Therefore, even though it looks super promising and it looks next gen, I can't clearly say that this is the winner for 2024. I would like to give overall best available model award to Kling 1.6. It overall offers the best quality, and you also saw in the comparisons with other models. It has also decent lip syncing. It is going to satisfy you overall with its capabilities. I think it will offer you best value for your cash. And since I repeated so much, I feel urged to say that this is not a paid partnership or anything. I'm just trying to put like an objective test to help my community to make best decision with their cash. I don't have any organic connection with Kling team. So to the third place, I put both Minimax and Runway Gen-3. I placed them together because it's really up to your needs. Meaning Runway is optimized for image to video. So it really lacks in the text to video. So as a creator, if you are using more text to video, I think you shouldn't go to Runway. The cool thing about Runway prompting is you don't need to describe the image in the image to video mode. You just need to explain the cinematography, which makes the Runway for me one of the best cinematic AI video tool when it comes to controlling the cinematic camera. But you want to control the subject, control the action, control the events happening in the scene, then I would recommend you to go into the direction of Minimax. It's a fantastic tool when it comes to controlling the subjects and action. If you want to control the cinematic camera, go to the Runway. And Runway also offers a very decent lip syncing tool. I made videos about Act 1 already. The problem with Minimax is face coherence problem, right? And it's there for a while and they didn't solve it yet. Meaning that face changes so much, especially if it is far from the camera. If they fix their face coherence problem, then they will be a serious competitor for Kling. If you say, look, I want to control both cinematic camera and I want to control my subjects in the scene and action and events, well, unfortunately, we don't have a tool for this yet. Every tool has its own advantages and disadvantages. Maybe Kling 1.6 and VEO 2 comes closest to control everything type of AI video tools. A few words about speed because this is something like people really care. Today, as December 2024, Minimax for me is the fastest tool right now. Kling 1.6 generations at the moment take around 10 minutes for 5 seconds videos and 14 minutes for 10 seconds videos. When 1.5 released first time, it was exactly the same problem. It was really slow, and then by time they made it much faster. So if you go back to my Kling 1.5 video, you will see in the comments many people were complaining about speed problem. And later these complaints diminished. I think it's gonna be same with 1.6 again. On the other hand, my Minimax generations takes around 4 minutes, and I think it's optimized nicely for speed. When it comes to Runway in unlimited mode, you need to wait in queue for 10 minutes. Of course, if you want to use your credits, then generations get extremely fast, but obviously your credits will run out really quickly. And Runway Turbo is faster, but there is a significant quality drop. It's a cheaper option, but it's a good offer from Runway. I'm not complaining about it. It's cheaper, it's faster, so you can consider using Runway Turbo. Now, a few honorable mentions because it would be unfair to not mention these tools. I didn't put them to the list, but Luma Dream Machine offers a decent video quality, especially when it comes to image to video. And one thing I like about Luma team, they listen to creator feedback. They are offering great user interface, especially with latest changes they did. It is really fun to use this tool. They put significant attention of detail to usability of this tool. So kudos to Luma team for this amazing work. Another honorable mention is Chinese model Hunyuan. It's really great for text to video. It doesn't offer image to video yet, as today, of course. I'm pretty sure in the future the image to video mode will also come for Hunyuan, and then I'm happy to retest it. Hopefully this video was truly helpful for you. Don't forget to give a thumbs up and subscribe for more in-depth tutorials. If you want to learn more about creative intelligence, click here.